Okay, welcome for an alumni pathway interview. Today we have Minh with us, who has so graciously offered to share his story and a little bit about his pathway from when he graduated in 2013 till now. So thank you, Minh, for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So just to kind of start us off, Minh, once you left UNIS, where did you go and what did you do?
Yeah, so a bit about background about myself. I studied in UNIS for 2 years, from 2011 to 2013. And after that, I did my bachelor degree in London for 3 years. And then I came back to Vietnam. I did a gap year, just do a lot of different internships to explore my passions. And then I did another 1 year of master degree in the UK again. And then after that, I came back to Hanoi in late 2018. And then since then, I've been working in supply chain um, industry. I first started in the Australian-based consulting firm, advising clients in retails for 3 years. And then recently, I moved on to a new company, working in retail in Ho Chi Minh City, which is called Sitcom.
Okay, and is that in supply chain as well?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Sorry, could you just explain to students who might not understand what supply chain means, like kind of a brief synopsis?
Yeah, I think like to put it simply, if you heard about economics or study about a bit about it, I think you heard about terms demand and supply. So basically, supply chain is to make sure you have enough supply of goods that come through. Let's say to a supermarket. Let's say you come to a Vinmart or Circle K, you see a lot of different products on shelf. So supply chain specialists or working in that sector, they will have to make sure that you have enough product on shelf on time at a good price. So recently, you probably heard a lot about supply chain risk and disruption, from the Russia, Ukraine, or China, zero COVID. So that's just a bit about supply chain.
Oh, fascinating. And was that something that you had always wanted to study, or how did you get into this?
Well, a funny story. I when I did my final year in my bachelor degree, I thought I did not like supply chain because I had quite low grades in in some relevant subjects. But I think after I took like a 1 year a gap year after my bachelor degree, I did some different internships and I sort of find my fit in supply chain. Um, yeah, so I think I just happened to get to know the job more in the real world experience. Yeah.
And so when you had done your gap year, that internship part, like, did you find like you needed more education in order, because you said you went back to your master's, like, explain to me kind of what happened, like how you knew you wanted a gap year to a master's and what came next.
Yeah. So in my bachelor degree, I study international business. So it's quite general and it's not very specialized in any subjects. So that's why I struggled quite a bit after my graduations, to find my fit where I could work. So I think I did about seven different or internship or contract, whatever you want to call it, and I did two supply chain works during that time, and I just find so this fits my characters and my passion, and I think this has a lot of potential, lots of demand for this for the employment in this sector. So I thought I want to study further. I studied supply chain in my master degree just to specialize my knowledge a bit more.
Okay, that's super helpful to understand, like, especially because we have a lot of students who go in to study business.
Yeah,
And so understanding that that might not be enough or give them enough of the skills that they're wanting.
yeah.
How many resumes or jobs do you feel like you've applied to, like in your time, from since Eunice to now?
It's interesting questions. I'm just trying to. I think I lost count. I think a few dozens of jobs application. I would say less than hundreds, but a few dozens of job applications since I graduated in 2016.
Thank you for that. I'm wanting students to understand like you're not going to come out of university, find one perfect job, and then you're in it. Like this is a process and it's going to take a lot of effort.
Yep, yep.
Do you think you were prepared and ready to be applying for those jobs or like creating resumes and doing all that? Or what could you have done to be more prepared?
Right. Um, so I think after I graduate in my bachelor degree, maybe back then I did not spend enough time to go to networking event or counseling to understand more about potential jobs or what I could fit in. And I had to learn. I learned more about it after I graduate, and that's why I spent a gap year to get a real world experience. If I wish maybe I had done more to ask people and network more when I was in my uni. But I think thanks to that 1 year gap experience, and then I did my master degree. I think after that, then I was really ready, and I got a good job after that. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, and with the UK, because it's just 3 years for an undergrad, and then you did 1 year master's, is that right?
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
really, it's the same amount of time if you had gone to North America to study.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. What did you do throughout university to kind of make sure that you were ready for work or job placements? Or is that kind of like you didn't really do enough and that's what you were saying?
I did not do enough in my bachelor, so I focused mostly on studying, on going with friends, but did not attend enough, jobs fair or networking event. And I think I learned it in a more like sort of brutal way when I graduated. I thought, oh, I really don't know much about what I could do. So I spent that one gap year, and then when I went to my master degree, I spent a lot of time networking in different sector and get to know different people, understanding different jobs, and I think that really helps me after I graduate.
Awesome. This is super awesome messages, I think, for our students to hear and even hear before they go into their bachelor's to start thinking about how proactive they could be. So this is meant for grade 10s, but I might show this to grade 11s and 12s to also see that. And then you had studied in the UK. Were you able to stay in the UK after and work, or did you always want to come back to Vietnam? How did
Um,
that work?
so I think back during my time, I think it was very. I think for international students, non-EU students, it was very hard to stay there. Basically, you have to come back to your home country after 3 months of graduation, unless you can get a job offer. But it's ultra competitive, and I guess I was not the case back then. So I was happy to be back to Vietnam.
Nice. Yeah, I think when you would have graduated, the visa restrictions were a lot more harsh. I think they've
Yeah.
loosened a little and students can now work a couple years.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Um, if you were in grade 10 all over again, what would you like to have told your grade 10 self, like to have
Mm.
done differently, or did you think it was all good?
Uh, that's interesting questions. Grade 10. Um, I, I don't know if I would have done much differently in grade 10. I mean, back then I was like sort of more like introvert guy. I spent a lot of time studying and sometimes hang out with friends, but I'm not the kind of guy who would go out party and know everyone in school. So I think it just depends on who you are. But I think just enjoy your time in high school. I think is one of the best times of your life. I think. Yeah.
Oh, that's such a nice message to hear. I hope they take that one in as well. Um, let me see. So I'm just trying to see. Oh, now, so you have a job right now. Do you imagine seeing yourself in this for another 10 or 20 years, or what do you think would be next for you?
Do you mean staying in the same job or like what?
Yeah.
Well, I think in this modern time, I think especially for the newer generation, people tend to move to different jobs every 2 or 3 years. In my past job, I stayed there for 3 years. So I don't think I'm gonna be staying in a place for 10 years. I think it's very unlikely, and I think it's good to move to different jobs and get new exposure, learn about different cultural how things work. But if you find a place that you feel at home and fit in, I think didn't stay there for 10 years.
Wonderful. I actually think that's the perfect ending for this. So thank you very much, Ming. I'm actually just going to turn off our recording here.